Everyone, welcome to the lab. It's Brendan, and today we'll be doing a set review for BS55, or well, BS65 Ultimate Battle. This is the second booster set from the Contract Era world. So we have Toa and Kai here on the front page. So this is roughly how the box art will look like. So this set gave us 3 new engage contracts. So these 3 contracts here will be given a engage brave. So we have the purple one is Camus, the yellow one is Palm, and the blue one is Reef. Camus looks like cards in open zone. Palm is a magic based deck, and Reef is a mill deck. They go blue. But we'll get on to that a little more later. You are also given new cards for ultimates in this new archetype, being the Holies archetype or extreme contract cards. So this is the other side of Javad that is, fighting to protect the world from Javad's invasion. So we got new sleeves, and yeah, there are 108 cards. So we shall go through the key X-rares and highest first, then I will deviate and talk about the other cards later. So first we have Camus. I just mentioned that she plays with cards from open zone, so her first effect here is that if you have 2 or more blood crystal cards in your open zone, your life cannot be reduced by opposing effects. This is a very nice passive because this can prevent your life from getting randomly sniped off, especially against red, because that's where most of the effect damage comes from. And her level 2 effect is that she can add 2 count, and then after that you put a blood crystal cost 7 and below card to the open zone, and this spirit has the on attack effect of the card, ignoring the brave condition and also ignoring the level condition of the card as well. And by the way, it just says any card, it doesn't say spirit card, so I'm pretty certain you can put braves in the open zone and use their when this spirit brave attacks effect. If I'm not mistaken, because now all the when this spirit attacks effect text has been standardized into that one black line. So this makes Camus very versatile because on attack effect is basically anything you want her to be if you put the card into open zone. And she does have some really nice cards that have very good on attacks that you want to use, or herself included by the way. So you can technically stack her to stack another copy of her, to stack the last copy of her, and then to stack another card to give yourself like +6 comp plus whatever the last card is going to do for you. So she's really nice. Moving on, we have Palm. As I mentioned before, it's a magic based deck. The cost is first effect, which is the passive, lets you fulfill 1 yellow reduction of a golden cloud magic card, and then after that magic card resolves, you +1 count. So basically every time you play your golden cloud magics, you gain 1 count, and basically Palm himself is 1 reduction of said magic. So if he is alive, that's 2 reductions, which is really nice. If he's in soul state, he also provides said symbol, and if you run 3 copies of Palm, which I think you probably should, the effect will stack because it doesn't say it doesn't stack. So that means every time you play a magic card, you can maximum have 3 symbols fulfilled and gain 3 count per magic, which I think it's pretty funny. Because sometimes when you do magic related combos, they are very quick and very scary because some of these go around specific bursts and interaction timings that don't really interact after a magic card resolves. So this is quite strong in some senses, but the deck is also a headache to play because the deck is mostly magic, so you don't have a lot of spirits to help you lock or attack. So you're relying on the magic to control until you reach the point where you can finish before, which is the Mikafa. We will talk about that later. His on attack block effect is that you can use a Vision magic card from your hand with cost lower than this spirit without paying cost, I believe. Yes, and it is immediately used. So let me just rephrase that. So during on attack or block, you can immediately activate a main or flash effect of a vision magic card without paying the cost. So basically, if Palm is alone, you can only activate a 2-cost vision magic card without paying the cost. And then you will get +1 count as well, because the vision magic cards are all Golden Cloud, so it will support in the first effect. And if he gains more cost, you are allowed to use bigger spells, which means you can have better offset of effects. So it's really nice that he lets you use a free magic and also gain count in the process. So I would recommend playing 3 of the partner, because it is very easy to have 3 of him in field, one on field, and then like 2 in soul state, so you can always have the magic reduction up or your vision magics or whatever golden cloud magic you decide to use. Now last but not least, for the spirit partners, we have Reeve. He is nil based and he has the gut and whiz effect to increase his cost per count maximum 8. Maximum 6, sorry, not maximum 8. Additionally, for every 10 card in your opponent's trash, this spirit gains 1 blue symbol. So you mill your opponent's deck, and then you get payoffs from his trash being thick as hell. So that is nice. So rather than just being a stoner mill deck, you now become a more aggressive mill deck that you can punch your opponent's HP as well, which is really nice. And his on attack is your count +2, and you can destroy an opposing spirit ultimate with cost lesser than this spirit. And then you mill 2 cards from your opponent's deck. So that's a lot of nice things in one text. You can destroy spirit at ultimates with cost lesser than him, which when your count reaches a certain amount, he will get really fat, which means it's probably anything under the sun, including the Advented Spirit's cost. So that is very good. You also mill 2, which sets up some of your effects when your opponent's deck is being milled by your Azure Wave family cards effects, blah blah blah. So yeah. And his passive gaining symbols as well makes him very very scary in the late game, because as you mill more of your opponent's deck, your Reeve is just going to get better and better, which is really nice. And he also has the support from the sharp side of cards that are generically used across all the Azure Wave decks. So him hitting high amounts of count is like breakfast for this deck. So yeah. Next, we have our Extreme Contract, which is our other ultimate contract that is not Jabbat. So this is Zeta. So Zeta is a ultimate contract based on ultimate triggers. So with his first effect being once per turn when your ultimate trigger hits, this ultimate you can refresh one of your ultimates and return Soul Core to your reserve. So what this means is that you can use his effect as some kind of like cycling effect, because your Soul Core comes back, so you can technically Advent, bring him out, use some main step ulti trigger, bring the Soul Core back, or an on attack ulti trigger. If it hits, you can refresh him, get the Soul Core back, and then you go into another form of the contract Advents that you can use, which is nice. Being refreshed means you can attack once more, which is also good. If he's heavily exhausted, means you can basically put him back in refresh state, which is also very good. So, and he's 2-2, which is awesome, because for a contract like him, being 2-2 is important, I guess. And his summon condition is unique, in which that your field and trash cannot have spirit cards. If not, you can't bring him out. So this means that you are dedicated, like literally dedicated to playing a ultimate deck. So you have no spirits at all. which is quite surprising because normally with other ultimate decks, they technically still allow you to run spirits as tech cards because our spirit techs are very strong. However, this set, or rather this partner, discourages the use of it. However, if you build the deck right, you technically can still use spirit cards. It's just that you're probably only running one Zeta chibi at the very least. And this is once per turn per copy, by the way, so if you have multiple copies, the first effect stacks. Or rather, you can use the first effect many times with different copies. And his on attack has similar to Rampo's text, which is your opponent can activate burst effects and you can gain 2 count and add 1 call from the void to your ultimate. Oh well, it has half of Lampo's effect because Lampo also has the opponent cannot use magic cards outside of Flash Diving. But this guy doesn't, so it's half a Lampo. Locking off one form of interaction on a partner is always a scary thing to look out for because locking out burst effects makes the card a lot stronger than you think, especially with it being a green ultimate of all things. So yeah, he looks promising so far. So look forward to the deck profiles that people are going to make on YouTube for this guy. I think he's quite decent, and apparently he's a wanker kind of deck. That means he farms core and count and doesn't really swing until his final form, but we'll get to that later. So next, we have our first X-Rare of the set, which is a red X-Rare. This is Drag Roy the 17th. He is Guts support. Well, support meant for Guts, which means he likes being discarded, which in his first text, which is once per turn same name, this card in hand when being discarded by your Scarlet Flame family effects, if your count is 4 or more, you can pay 2 costs to summon him. So, when you do summon him or when he attacks, he can destroy a single symbol, spirit or ultimate. If your count is 6 or more, you can destroy up to 2 symbols worth of spirit and ultimates. What this means is that at 6 count, you can either destroy a 2 symbol spirit or ultimate, or 2 separate spirit or ultimates that combined add up to 2 symbols, which is great. The funny part about this is that if you can somehow make your opponent's board 0 symbols and they have multiple bodies, you can technically select all of the spirits until you reach 2 symbols because it's a skin attack and it's up to 2 symbols. So if your opponent's board has 0 symbols of spirits and ultimates and they are still there, you can technically use this guy to wipe out the whole board, which is scary to a certain extent because this is a very funny synergy with yellow. Because yellow is the only deck that lets you put opponents' spirits or ultimates symbols to 0. So this is quite cute for this card, but of course we won't be mixing yellow in a Guts deck, so that is nuking 2 symbols means it's either 1 big body or 2 smaller bodies, which I think is still good because it synergizes with the last effect. At level 2-3, once per turn during either player's attack step, when your effect destroys opposing spirit or ultimates, you get to draw 2 cards. So you don't just refund a body with Dragroy 17 himself when you discard him through guard or other Scarlet Flame discarding effects. You also can replenish 2 cards from your hand, which means you technically have like +3. Well, +3 your opponent -1, so technically you put yourself quite ahead when you use him as a discard border for Guts and you manage to have the 2 call to pay to bring him out. My only peeve is that it requires 4 count so that he jumps out, so it's a bit disappointing because we kind of want this effect early, and sometimes at 4 count for Guts is not considered early. We already have trouble hitting 2 count sometimes before going into, like, let's say if you get jammed, we have difficulties going into 2 count. I can't imagine trying to go into 4 count if jammer is still a thing. However, with the Adera and a bunch of other cards from the Scarlet Flame line, we can make use of that to reach 4 count so that Dragroy becomes live as soon as possible because I think he's really strong. Him being cost 8 is also very important because he has armor 7 in the form of Freedom Gundam, still kind of exists time to time. So being cost 8 does help in making sure that we can clear almost everything that we need to clear. It's good. He also can be used offensively with Local Guard. He also can be used in our draw step with Adera, because Adera does discard a card if you're not at 5 count, and usually you're at 4. So just nice, you can spin him out at 4 count and kill a bunch of things, draw more cards, and then get your core back in refresh deck, which I think is really nice. Although he does need to be level 2, so you need a total of 4 core in your draw step to do this, which means it's quite late in the game already and you're not really far ahead. But I think it's still a nice card to have because it's a AAA battery on the stick. Yeah, it's better than AAA battery on the stick because it hits ultimates too. So next up we have Lugo, Tarat Lugo. So this is the reverse contract advent for Tarat. So the condition is obviously you need a Tarat and yourself is at cost, well, count 7 and higher during your turn. So by sending the opponent's Soul Core or one of their count, sending their Soul Core to trash or sending one of their count to void, you can stack this on top of the Eyebrow Tarat or any of the forms with a pre-advent Eyebrow Tarat. And his passive during Cold Rain is all your red only spirits get an extra red symbol. Now, this just gives me Red Volt vibes. Now, Red Volt needs a cost 5 or higher, originally red, but the difference is this guy just needs red only spirits. So what I noticed in the set is that there are ways to get the Flugo out really early. So that means this passive is going to be very important down the line. And his OC effect is, on attack, you can target, attack an opposing spirit. Additionally, if it's blocked, you can put one red card from your hand to this spirit's pre-advent sources and refresh. So by putting one red card, you refresh. And then if he's not blocked during this, you gain symbols, red symbols, equal to the number of pre-advent cards this card has. So what this means is that if you pair this up with Dino Wing and you're not blocked, you can technically put yourself at 1, 2, 3. So you have base 1 symbol, you gain 2 from stacking 1 below and Tarat himself. So that's 3. The Brave and the symbol as well, so that's 4. And then with the on Corin effect, that's 5. So basically, with Tarat, Lugo, and Dino Wing, you can one punch people, which I think is freaking strong. However, this is a count 7 scenario. Reaching count 8 means it's going to be quite slow to attain this point. However, there is another way to play cheat and just get the first effect live and kill people with that. We will go into that later. So next we have the Prowl X-Ray. This is a support X-Ray. I can't read the name properly, but it's a... Oh, it's a Yosei. Is it Imp? Is that Imp? I think that's Imp. So on summon and on attack, you gain 1 count and gain 1 power from the void to your spirits. Additionally, if you have count 6 or higher and you have a Prowl, in your open zone, soul state, or on field, you can heavy exhaust a spirit ultimate, and the exhausted spirit ultimate cannot refresh during the opponent's refresh deck, which I think is quite nice because this is like the better monkey. The only difference is monkey has high speed, this doesn't, but monkey doesn't target ultimates. So this card does do quite a good job for the cost. The best part is that but the only problem is this card's heavy exhaust is tied to being at 6 count, so that's the only downside. But with Prowl, I think you can hit 6 count very, very easily, so I don't think that is the biggest issue at the moment. But being able to heavy exhaust something and then it can't refresh during the next refresh step is quite lethal, because that means your opponent's Spirit Ultimate is stuck there for like 3 turns. Because you're heavy exhausted, then you come back. So you keep them stuck for 2 turns, rather than the 1 turn as how heavy exhaust was supposed to be. but this is a lot better. This is good. And during your attack step, when your Hikirai spirits are attacking, your opponent can activate inverse effect. So basically you're trying to give a Lampo passive to all your Hikirai. So basically this is the Lampo that Frau needed, basically. And what's with green with blocking inverse effects? That's like so disgusting. Oh well. Next we have Gataru's Reverse Contract Advent. This is the Sinister Gataru. So he, like Lugo, needs the Gataru. Needs Gataru and count 7, and on count 7 when he advances, you discard the top card of your deck. You can summon a Hekirai card without paying the cost. If you did summon, you, after the effect resolves, activate it once more, maximum 4 times. 4 times additionally. So basically you can in long story short, you open 1, you discard the top card, summon the thing. If you did summon, you can activate the effect again, and you can do that until you've done this whole thing 5 times, basically. So yeah, basically, long story short, this makes Sinister Gataru a 1 card make 5 bodies, which I think is cool. Because spitting out 5 bodies with how fast Gataru can hit 7 count, this is very, very lethal. And this doesn't require a soul call, you can technically use your opponent's soul call, or you can use their count. So either way, this is really strong. Although you do get Mark 6 or Zeroth Barrier. However, Gataru being Gataru, I don't think you're worried about that too much. And yeah, with the speed of the deck, you can technically do this on the first turn, going second, if your hand is really that good. So this is a card that I will look out for in the coming meta, because Gataru is showing up on the meta chart now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this card pushed it a little bit more. And on attack, once per turn, you can send 2 opposing exhausted Spirit Ultimates to the bottom of the deck. So it's decent removal archetype as a whole. Next we have the Pillow Whale for Wiz, and it's Flash once per turn, same name during either player's attack step. You can banish an Excite 5 card from your trash to pay 1 cost and summon this card from hand. If you've done so, if it's during the opponent's attack step, you immediately end the battle. So it's a kind of what do you call that? It's a end battle closed Gemini. It's a closed Gemini on a body. It also has a on summon effect to send an opposing Spirit Ultimate to bottom deck. And it has a passive on level 2. Actually during your attack step or your 0 contract spirits, get an extra white symbol. So who needs for answer now, right? Just gain a symbol and go bird. This card is also pretty decent because it's a 1 card remove 2. It's like a 1 for 2 or a 2 for 1. Because if your opponent only has like 2 bodies and they attack with 1 of them, you use the whale, bot deck the standing one, and you end the battle of the current one. So that means you don't take damage, which is good. And it also works as a counteractive tool because it gives all your wizards an extra symbol, which I think is funny that they are giving white a red roll effect. But okay, granted, this is just for silver contract. So, not silver contract, sorry, 0 contract. I think this is nice. It's a strong card. I'm looking forward to see how the Wiz players will take this. And now we have the final form Zeta. So this is the final form Zeta of the Zeta partner we just went through. He has a during your attack step effect. When your ultimate trigger hits, for each trigger hit, you send 1 opposing life to reserve. So he cannot stack, means you can't have multiple copies of him on the table and like, oh, I hit 1 trigger, I shoot 3 life. No. It doesn't work that way. You only can shoot 1 at a time. You only can use 1 effect at a time. However, this doesn't mean that if your trigger, your ultimate trigger is double ultimate trigger, you only can shoot 1 life. No. You shoot 2 if you hit 2. And Judge Knights, being a double ultimate trigger himself, at count 8 during OC and Advent, when this ultimate attacks, you can double ultimate trigger. So you put the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the grave and you count the cost. If it's lesser than this card, it's a hit. If it's not, it's a guard. If it's same or higher, it's a guard. If it's lesser, it's a hit. So for each hit, you heavy exhaust an opposing spirit ultimate. If you hit both of them, during this battle, your opponent cannot use cards from their hand outside of flash timing. Means I can't hand trap this thing, which is a pain because this guy is half the time going to be 25k. Means I can't burst flame this, which is a disappointment. I can't bloodshed this because he just locked off the cards in my hand, unless my hand is naturally unaffected, and that's a whole thing altogether. So that puts him at a very, very nice angle. So it's like you have Lampos, no hand trap buff. This is all cards, not just magic cards. So it's all cards, even spirits and ultimates, whatever. And it's also for the battle. So even if he leaves, somehow, this battle, your opponent can't use hand traps, basically. Because it's a effect outside of flash timing from him. So yeah, that's very strong. A lot of people are talking about the Vendale into Octo Trigger and him combo. I think that is a bit too risky because firstly, Vendale summons the first 3 ultimates he sees. If he somehow sees 2 other ultimates that is not the combo piece, you're screwed. And it does happen time to time, unless you build the deck right and the only ultimates you play is the Vendale and these 2. The Octo Ultimate Trigger and this Zeta. So that's like, honestly it's too much to ask, I think. It's not consistent enough to warrant the sacrifice in deck space. I really don't think it's worth it. So just play Zeta normally and you'll be fine. It's strong enough as it is. Okay, now we move on to the engagers. So this is Camus's engage. So when you brave it to a Camus in pre-advent, you can add 1 core from Void to up to 5 Blood Crystal Spirits or Nexuses. So basically, if you have 5, you can add 1 core to 1 each, totaling 5. So you basically gain 5 core from 5, which is really nice. Although it does hit Biramba, but if you do it right and put it all on your Nexuses, and somehow your soul core is still on the Camus, you don't lose your Camus. If not, you just lose 1 core to Void rather than losing 5. Or losing 10. So yeah. And when this Brave attacks, send 1 core from opposing spirits or ultimates to the reserve for every 2 count you have. If this effect depletes, you draw 2 cards. I think it's nice because the scaling is good. Means the more count you have, the more you're gonna send. Means you are definitely being able to draw 2. And during your attack step, when your count is 8 or higher, all your Infernal Contract spirits effects that send core to reserve, send them to trash instead. So it makes your first effect become, for every 2 count you have, send 1 core to trash. If it depletes, draw 2. And sending cores to trash is a lot more dangerous because it reduces your opponent's ability to use cards in flash timing. And with the XV paired with Camus, it's gonna be a lot harder for your opponent to react to the attack. So we'll go through that in a moment. Next we have Palm's Brave. He doesn't have a symbol, however, he will get one later because his engage firstly gives him an Yggdrasil effect. So basically until your next start step, your illusion contract, spirits and cards in hand are unaffected by opposing effects. Yeah, so basically in hand as well, so you can basically play around Dark Tower. Right? Yeah, so the point is that this card plays around Dark Tower, makes you unaffected for all the time you need until you kill your opponent, which is like that 1 turn. And during your attack step, when brave, once per turn, when you use a magic card, you can return a vision magic card from your trash to your hand and draw 1. Additionally, if your count is 6 or higher, during this turn, this spirit gains a yellow symbol. So basically making this brave a 1 symbol brave. You only just don't provide symbols in your main step. Outside of that, it's honestly really strong because this is an either player attack step effect as well. So if you somehow didn't manage to kill the guy, but you put him at really low HP, you can use this brave effect to keep yourself alive a lot longer, and then after that, come back to your turn, try again. But you'll probably succeed because Mikapa has a life sniping effect, which we will go through later. Next we have this Brave. This hammer is something that I guess you have asked for very long, which is Nexus Destruction. Because when you engage, which is braving the Brave to a spirit that has the respective partners in the pre-advent. For this hammer's case is you can destroy any number of nexuses you and your opponent controls. For each one destroyed, you draw 2 cards, and the destroyed nexuses cannot activate their effects. This is really good because finally blue can clear nexuses and have free draw without repercussion, which is what the deck kind of lacked. So I guess this is fine. And it's nice because because the effects of Nexus cannot activate, this basically says I clear volcanoes. Although white isn't very relevant nowadays, but when it does get relevant again, this engage effect will save Reef from those sticky situations from the volcano. And when this Brave attacks, mill 3 cards from the opponent's deck. Additionally, if you're Brave to a artificial contract, during this battle, your opponent cannot use magic cards from their hand or open zone that has the same name of a card in their trash. And they also cannot activate burst effects. So this locks off almost all the forms of interaction that your opponent can have from their hand, open zone, and their burst area. So what can they really do? Well, they need to pray that their hand is naturally unaffected by a buff of a card on the field, then they can play the magic cards, or you have to use spirit cards instead, because this doesn't stop Exo. You can technically play Exo cards to get you out of this, because it doesn't stop you from using Exo. It doesn't say Exo, it just says magics. So thank God for that. Although locking off the burst effect also kind of hurts. And luckily for us, Burst Flame still is in rotation, so if this is Brave to anything important, we can kill it straight away. So now we're going to move on to the XVs. This is Dark Dragon Emperor Siegfried. XV, this is the Dark Siegfried. So what he does is flash during either player's attack step. Once button, same name. If your count is 7 or higher and you control a red contract spirit in soul state or alive, you can summon this card from hand without paying the cost, which is nice. Because it's like, whoa, getting a 9 cost body for free. 2 symbols, very good. He also has a nice on-summon effect that destroys a non-red opposing spirit ultimate on Nexus. So it doesn't deal with rainbow things, which kind of irks me a bit, but I guess this is paying tribute to its original effect and buffing it because now it can destroy ultimates and Nexus as well. And in the meta right now, I don't think there's a lot of rainbow stuff. Not that I can remember, other than GSN being rainbow. Power of Limbo, I can't kill Zafak with this, he's red. So other than that, I think it's fine, but he's quite fat as well, so I think that is generally okay. Now the funny effect that he has is that level 2 and 3 when this spirit attacks, once per game, hard once per game, you can put cores from a cost 8 or higher Sky Contract Spirit that's originally cost 8 and higher void. By doing so, after this turn ends, you get a new turn. So basically this says I block a core from Flugel or Furrer, so like previous Farad X-Rare. So basically I send one core from either one of them, I get a new turn. So this, I guess, is why they are encouraging one card to start making use of this effect, because I think it's really funny that I can get a new turn by just sending one core to void, which I think is very fair, by the way, because it's like one core to void for 3 turns. I think that's good. I think that's good enough. Okay, so next we have Pandemia XV. This is the purple XV that is meant for cameras, and why I think it's one of the most dangerous XVs this set is because firstly, he can stack himself from open zone. So if he somehow gets to your open zone by your canisters support, you can bring him out rather than being stuck in your open zone, which is great. And when he attacks, you can send 7 core from field to the opponent's reserve, this will become sending it to trash if you have the Brave and somehow have account, which is very possible. And then if you deplete it during this turn, your spirits cannot be blocked. So long story short, the Brave, you can send 7 calls to trash and cannot be blocked with 3 symbols. Yay! Very good. He also has a during Brave and during Corin effect, during your deck stat, cannot stack. When this spirit's core moving effect is activated, you randomly discard a card from your opponent's hand. Bro, do you understand how many cards this one effect can discard? Okay, so first with Camus, you put a card that says send 1 card to reserve. That's 1 card out of your opponent's hand. His own effect sends 7 cores to the reserve, or trash if you have the Brave. That's also another card from the opponent's hand. And your Brave, I just mentioned, that sends 1 call for every count to your reserve. If you're at 6 count or 8 count or higher, you send them to trash. So and that's the 3rd card out of their hand. So you're telling me that you're blocking at least 7 core, 8 core plus. You're sending minimally 10 core to your opponent's trash, discarding 3 cards, being unblockable because you're most likely depleting something unless it's unaffected. It's doing it for 3. That's pretty insane. The fact that this deck can also rush to 7 count very fast because of how Camus works is pretty insane. Because all you need to do is just activate Camus on a Camus once and you have 4 count right there, and the 3 can just come out from any other source like that Nexus or whatnot. So that's why I think this card is going to be quite dangerous, and I think Camus would be a very strong contender coming into the deck. But it kind of does what Superstar does in a sense, because sending call to trash. A bit. Okay, next we have Hercules XV. This guy is meant for Gataru because he has high speed. This one is high speed mystery, by the way. It's a different type of high speed. Now, if you have a Gataru, the summon cost has to be paid off. The summon cost and the maintenance must be from reserve, unless or you can pay cost from your account until you have 4 to trash to summon it. So basically, you either pay him normally from the reserve as a normal high speed, or you can pull cost from your count until you left 4 to pay for his cost. So basically, it's like you minus 2 count. You technically become minus 2 count, or like boost 2 count from your count to trash, and put 1 call on him to fulfill his condition, which I think is quite strong because it can come down very fast. Because the condition is that you just need to send call until you left 4 count to trash. So I think that's very easy, honestly. And yeah, his on-summon effect is also pretty decent because you heavy exhaust a Spirit Ultimate. After that, if you have 6 count or more, you refresh all your Gataru and your Grun Brown spirits. Oh, it doesn't even say spirits, it just says if it has Gataru or GB in name, you refresh that. It doesn't even say spirits. I just realized, it's just any card. So if you somehow have a GB Nexus or a Gataru Nexus, like those specific kanji and kata, whatever, he refreshes them at 6 count. So you're very, very solid here. And during your attack stat, when your Hero Spirit is attacking, your opponent can activate burst effects. Bro, I just read 3 different green cards, and 3 different green cards all say they don't let you activate burst effects when the said thing is attacking. Oh god, what have we begun? What have we become? What have we become for green to just lock off burst effects like it's an everyday occurrence now? Such a pain. So annoying. Jeez. Like the deck can kill you very fast and you're locking off one form of interaction. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, now we have Mikapa. So this is the finisher supposedly for Palm. What she does, as per her Mikapa tribute, on Corin or attack once per turn, you open cards from the deck equal to the number of yellow spirits or nexuses you control, and you add all the yellow magic cards to hand. After that, you can put as many vision magic cards from your hand to the field. So now the vision magic cards, they have the extra effect to proc when you discard them from field, and it's a sort of like almost any time / during flash timing kind of thing. So it gets around certain stuff like the cards that say you can't use cards from hand, haha. But they don't say you can't activate the vision effects on it. So I think it's really nice that Mikafast has that up. And the fact that you can draw a lot of cards just from opening X, equivalent to the number of spirits or nexuses you control, is very nice. Which sets up for a second effect, together with Palm. When you use a magic card once per turn, when she attacks, after the effect resolves, you send 2 life to the opponent's resolve. So combined with Palm's Brave, you get the card back from the trash, or you can get another card back from trash while you use the magic, and then you send 2 life, and you're attacking for 2, most likely though, because you need 7 count, and then it's unaffected. Whee! That's free 4 damage, unless you somehow get blocked. But considering how the deck works, I hopefully think you won't get blocked, but who will know, right? So yeah, Mikafa does look promising to some degree. I really like her art as well. I hope her secret looks good, because if her secret does look good, then I'll be making a lot of this. Alright, moving on to the last XV. Yep, the last XV. This is Castle Golem XV. A cough shark support. But seriously though, let me explain. During your deck step, when your spirits discard the opponent's deck, during this battle your opponent must discard a magic card from their hand to block. Now this is good together with Reeve's Brave, because his Brave already wants the magic card in trash so that they can't use the same magic card in their hand if they have multiples. Now what this does is that, because this is the passive, right, you could at 10 count, let's say you're at 10 count on your main phase, you can go into Gabiru Shark on a Shark, and then you put the Soul Call back to go into God Shark, right? And then you attach the Brave. Oh hey, you don't need to attach the Brave first actually, sorry. And then you stack this Castle Golem XV on another live Shark. The Shark has to be alive. Okay? So you stack that. So now you have 3 symbols on board, which pays the reduction for the Brave. Just nice. 2 and 1. So you pay, and oh yeah, the Brave mills 3 by the way. So that means when your God Shark attacks, you're proccing this skill to make the Shark unblockable for 3! And your opponent can't use cards from hand in open zone unless they pay the extra cost. And if you're at 10 count with Sharks on attack, that's 12. You need to pay 6 costs to use cards from hand. You lost 3 cards from your deck. You need to discard a magic card from hand to block the Shark. So you're basically kind of stuck. So yeah, this is why I think this card is actually Shark support and not Reeve's finisher, but it is also technically Reeve's finisher because it's Castle Golem. The mill based deck, sure. Fine. I can accept. His on attack also can mill, by the way. During Corin and Brave, for each count you have, you mill 1 card from your opponent's deck. Maximum 15. If this card doesn't mill anything, you refresh. So what this means is that half the time when you stack this on Reeve, you're gonna be at and on attack you're gonna reach 12 because of Reeve. So you're milling 12, which is a lot already considering how much you milled throughout the course of the game. You mill 12, you get 1 symbol because of Reeve, minimally, so that's a 3 symbol attacker. If somehow you didn't mill at all, it's a 2 symbol restanding dude. And your opponent needs to use magic cards to block. Or at least discard 1 magic card to block. They can't use their burst effects. And they can't use magic cards that have the same name as the one in trash. So yeah, Reeve in a nutshell. If you hit 10 count and you manage to get this Castle Golem XV out, the chances of you winning just skyrockets to the moon and back. So yeah, that's the high rarities of BS65. So far so good. Red is looking a bit lackluster. However, I'm still excited for what they can do because of like the support card in the set. So first, let's go through what I am super hyped about in terms of the commons and rares. And the first thing I would like to talk about here is Dreadheart. It's a cost 5 rare that is 5 costed and 2 rate reduction. He is a Scarlet Flame Dragon Man. Yeah. So what he does is on summon and on attack, you gain 1 count, and then once per turn you return 2 core that is not the soul core from your trash to the spirit, which I think is good. Because with Tarot, this guy pumps you 3 count in total for 1 card. I think that is decent enough for it. So basically on summon gain 2 count. Because he gains 1 from the straight plus 1, and then the core returning from trash to himself will proc the Tarot to give him 1 more count. So this is kind of the thing that I needed Red to have. Something that on summon gives me 2 count. So that I can reach into the certain count ranges to do my thing. So I'm very happy Dreadheart exists for Tarot because he is on summon plus 2 count for Tarot, which is great. And then his passive, oh my god, I love his passive. You can contract Corin, a Sky contract cost 6 and higher card, onto red only and cost 5 and higher target. So what this means is that instead of your usual stacking onto Sky contract, you can now stack on a red only cost 5 and higher spirit. Now, we just looked at Flugo, didn't we? And Flugo is a cost 10 Sky contract. And Dragheart basically changes this yellow text to red only and cost 5 and higher during my turn. So you're telling me this 1 card enables a second turn Flugo so that all my red spirits get a red symbol and I can punch my opponent to death? The answer is yes. And don't get me started on his second effect. His last effect is also pretty decent. When your Sky Contract Spirits attack, you can destroy the lowest PP opposing spirit ultimate. Red vote for ultimates, because that's what I'm looking at here. So I think that's really nice. Being able to enable Frugal on second turn, that one is the huge cherry on top, the icing on the cake, because I have waited so long for a card to make my red world good again, because red world has been limited to 1 for good reason, and now you're giving me a 2 card way into red world again. But the red world is better now because now I just need red only spirits to gain the extra symbol, and that's a lot of things, by the way, the Tarot included. So what you can do is turn 1 play a Nexus. Okay, any red Nexus of your choosing. You can even be Dark Tower, is also fine. Second turn, you play the Tarot, you basically did not lose any core, you gain 1 count. Okay? So now you have the 2 reductions for the Dragheart. So you pay 3, which you should have because going second you have 5 core, so you don't have no excuses. You pay 3, go into this Dragheart, remaining you left 1 core. Okay? You gain 1 count going to 2. If you use Dark Tower as your first Nexus, if you're using Adera, that's 3. And then you return 2 core from your trash to the spirit, so you essentially only paid 1 cost. And you gain 1 more count from the rod, so that's 3 or 4 count, depending on whichever. And then, because your opponent probably still has their soul core, you can use Flugo. Flugo to go on top of Dragheart by eating their soul core. So let's say you're up against Javad, because that's like the main dude you're gonna see nowadays. Okay, fine, if they have a Badger Dolores set, whatever, okay, whatever. But if you do this right, I don't think you are able to be badgered like at all. Okay? Because against Javad, right, if they are going second, they will attack you and use their draw effect, so they have 1 core. So they won't aimlessly open or shamelessly open the Badger Dolores for you, because it will lose their Javad and they can't play the game after that. I've done it before because people keep thinking that the burst summon is optional, but actually it's not. It was never optional to begin with, unless you couldn't summon it. And when I mean by couldn't, it means like something like Brahms the Fuck is stopping you. Outside of that, if you have the core, you have to summon burst rate. So a lot of times, the Javad players will not open the Javad on summon. So this, you're fine. You're only afraid of Mark 6, which occasionally appears time to time. Fine, that is okay. Because sadly, drag cards +1 count is not optional, which is very sad. I just hope that +1 count was optional, so I can use it on attack instinct, which is fine. I'm okay. But the main point is that what I'm trying to say here is that you ate your opponent's soul core. They probably paid 2 to 3 to make a play, right? And then they have like 1 or 2 core remaining because they went second, or they don't even have the 1 core because they used it going second. And you have 4 damage on the board because Flugo gives 1 to the Tarot as well. So your Tarot is 2, your Flugo is 2. If you can somehow brave the Flugo, it's 3 and 2 or 2 and 3, which means your opponent is freaking dead. Unless they have a hand trap. But the point that I'm trying to put across here is that you have second turn, you basically have going second kills available just because drag card exists. And I think this card is going to really change the way people look at red decks, because not just Tarot, you can use this in other red decks. He does not specify anything other than saying that he enables Flugo to go on top of it, which I think is phenomenal. At least for me, I think it's phenomenal. If people picked otherwise, then so be it then. Because a lot of people are saying Flugo is back because he's a live shoot, blah blah blah. I'm like, bruh, second turn Flugo. Am I gonna turn that down? No. So yeah, I'm really excited for drag card. Like, this is the one card I'm super hyped about. Like, when I saw drag card released, I didn't really look at anything else. I was like, oh my god, drag card. So yeah, I think this other card is also interesting for the red side of things. So this is one of the other guard support. This is the Dragon Knight, or well, Dinosaur Dragon Knight. Dinosaur Knight. Yeah, he's a Dinosaur Knight. His Mirage effect is the part I really like, because when your Scarflame effects discards cards from your hand, +1 count. This is repeatable, by the way. So if you discard multiple cards, multiple instances, you gain 1 count, which is good. And then after that, you can draw 1 card from your deck. So you can replenish the card that you lost. If you do this right, you can every turn discard 1, and then you use the effect, draw it back. So you cycle itself. If you discarded Dragroy, you can bring out Dragroy and draw another 2, which is nice. I think it's good. I think it's a good card. His passive, or rather his level 1, 2, 3 during the start of your deck step is also nice, because at the start of your deck step you can discard 1 Scarlet Flame Family card from your hand. Or by discarding 1 from your hand, sorry. By discarding a Scarlet Flame Family card from your hand. During this turn, when your opponent wants to use magic or exo cards, if after that effect resolves, they send 1 life to trash. And this is during this turn. So if, let's say they remove this during their dash time, they still will take the 1 to trash. And the best part is the life goes to trash. It's not going to reserve. The strong part is that the core goes to trash, which means that your opponent doesn't get much resources from taking that 1 life from this effect, which I think is good. The funny thing you can use this card for, together with our best boy Drago Elder and Dragroy, is that having both on the field, right? Let's say you have 3 core spare after having these 2 on field at level 1. So you decide to proc the Dragon Knight first. And you discard Dragroy. You pay the 2, bring out the Dragroy, summon the Dragroy, don't use the on summon first. Or if your opponent has, or you have enough core to put it at level 2 to kill something, also can. And you draw 2, fine. You draw 2, and then if your hand size is still under 5, your Drago Elder can bring back all the core, and draw 2. And draw 2, putting yourself at 7. So it's similar to the expansion and expansion and Dragon Elder thing that I like to do is that I always like to use expansion first to put myself at 5 hand so that my Dragon Elder will move me at 7 hand. Now this is something similar. However, instead of 2 bodies, you now have 3. 1 being a good attacker to remove things and draw more cards. If you never use the draw effect yet, this guy makes your opponent harder to interact with your board because if they do, they're gonna lose life after using the effect. And by the way, this lasts for the turn, so even if it disappears, right, and your opponent loses magic or exo cards, they will still have to take the life after that, which is phenomenal because I can just push. This guy just enables me to just play more aggressively so that my opponents do use the magic cards to burn their. And I get all my callback from Dragon Elder that I just paid from Dragroy. So it's basically 0 costed interaction. If you do it in that order, sure. You could also do it in a way that you have 1 call each, right? Then you move all the callback first, draw the 2, then you discard the 1 with the Dinosaur Knight, and then you pay the cost for Dragroy to come out, which I think is also fair because this guy can be depleted after using his effect, which is okay. If you want to keep the body, then sure, you play it differently, but in some cases where you see the Dragroy a little later, sure, then you just kill this guy, but you get the buff anyways. And if you have this in your Mirage zone, you draw an extra card and get 1 count. I think is this card is going to help me a lot in guts. I think this is the card I'm looking forward to the most. One of the cards I'm looking forward to the most for guts, along with Dragroy. So my new Red Con engine will be 3 Adera, 1 Guts, 3 Dragon Elder, 3 Dragroy, and probably 3 of this. So that's like 12 cards already prepared for Red Control. He's also a Red costed 6 and higher. Red only 6 and higher, so he helps a lot in becoming Hyper Kabuto. Or becoming Crimson Mode if he's brave. If he's brave to a Red only brave, then he can become Crimson Mode. But he can become Kabuto, Hyper Kabuto, which is good. This cost 3 also is not bad for guards. Cause it's the +2 count thing that I wanted for very long. And he's recyclable as well. Yeah, when this card is in trash, once per turn, same name. If your red effect destroys opposing spirit ultimate or nexuses, if you have a guard, you can return this card to hand. So basically, again he's this card border that can be returned to hand to use as this card border again, which is very good. The fish has the same Mirage effect as the Dinosaur Knight, so it may be considered, but I think for sake of space, if I were playing a red control deck, then it would just be this guy. But for normal guards, I may consider running both. I've seen, well, or rather, the playtests have shown that probably you only want this guy and not the fish. But we'll see. For Camus's end, as I was saying, we have a lot of good on attacks. I think this was one of them. This is the sort of God Seeker of the deck. So if you use this with Camus, you plus 3 count, and you put 1 card to open zone again, and then you open 3. If you done so, you open 3, add a blood crystal, and you discard everything else, which is okay. So basically, you just gain a lot of hand. Or rather, sort of, yeah, you indirectly gain a lot of hand because you put the cards in zone, so you still can use it. This cost 4 is also decent. On summon or Corin, discard 1 blood crystal card from hand to draw 2, and then has the cannot end attack step clause, which is nice. It's also one of the emblems for Camus, so that's good. This is the Demon Queen, Lady Devimon, as we like to call her. If you use her first on attack, it basically says +4 count, open the top 2 cards of your deck, add a blood crystal. Yeah, discard 2 cards from the deck. Then after that, from your trash, you return a blood crystal, spirit card or brave card to your hand or to your open zone. So it's quite nice because if you add the card to open zone, it doesn't trigger all the when hand size increase blah blah blah. So that's very good. Because going around Ill Dissolve as a purple deck, solid. So you not triggering that burst is always good for sure. The Emerald Canvas is also good because you can summon Brave for free. from your hand, your open zone, or your trash. So he's the new Sonic, but in Camus. So I think this is really nice. And if you've done so, she sends Core to reserve as well. But if you brave the engage brave and you're at 6 card or more, it becomes send 2 Core to trash, which is sedap. I think it's good. I think it's a very nice addition for the deck. And it might take the deck to quite nice heights. And once button refresh also, very nice. Means you can spawn quite a lot of braves. Now for Gataro and Prowl's end of things. Gataro didn't really get a lot of good cards because we want like cheap stuff, and Dark and Mahaji from BSC42 already did that because it's like a 1 cost high speed. If you have 3 life or less, it becomes a 1-1 high speed. So it's a free high speed, you just need 1 coin. I think this guy would be anything if I were to know. So he is a high speed that on attack or block can summon another thing from the deck, which I think is nice because it doesn't eat your soul core. Although he's quite expensive, 5 minus 3. So it's like you need to balance out whether you really want this or not. But it's a decent extender. Prowl got her new Advent for one count, which is good because previously she only had 1 Advent and that needed 3 count. Sometimes it was hard to attain 3 count somehow. So now having the 1 count version, it's good. On Corin and on attack gain 1 count each also. So that means she can scale herself very fast. And during attack step, your attack step effect, your flower contract spirits attack reduces the opponent's life. You send 1 more life to the trash, which is good. She's basically a mini Leo Zealand. Yeah, really mini Leo Zealand because it only sends 1 core, but the 1 core is going to trash instead of reserve. So I think this is really good for Prowl. Very nice card to have. For Wiz, he got a lot of Excite 5s and a Searcher for Excites or for your 0 contracts in general. And then he allows your Excite 3s and 5s to jump out to the field instead of going to hand. So gaining additional 2 bodies and value is very nice. He can summon himself too, I think, if he's the Excite 3 from trash. So I think replenish your hand, very strong. Synergy with Atomic Shield because it opens your deck. So yeah. Palm wise, the Master Red Advent is good because it's generic enough to add any yellow magic card. And you can put vision magic cards to it. Oh, sorry, you add a yellow brave, any yellow brave and a vision magic card. Then the rest are put to bottom deck. You can't search for normal magics, but being able to search for your brave and yellow magic is good enough. For the blue side, I think this Advent is good because it helps Reeve search, and at 8 count it restands, so it's an aggressive card. The burst also quite decent. It has a mill 5. If your opponent doesn't mill, you refresh. You draw 3, discard 1. And you can immediately activate it if you mill 3 or more cards. This Advent is also good because offensively and defensively, when your opponent's trash has 5 or more cards, you can just stack him without using the soul core, or treat as your soul core already sent to trash. And he's on Advent, ignoring brave cost, destroy by cost. Basically, cost to no okay, no spirit no cost to made, aite no spirit to adite metal skin dake hakai. So if you have a lot of count, this guy removes a lot of bodies at once or 1 big body, so it's very strong. I approve of this Advent for Reeve. Now for Zeta, I think yellow Emre is the one that's pretty good. On summon, draw 2. Then during your main phase, ultimate trigger. So if it hits, you can get your soul core back and refresh her or whatever. Then if double hit, you draw another 2. And for each hit, your opponent's Spirit or Nexuses cannot activate the attack. So it's very terrifying. This blue burst is also good with Zeta. Yeah, because you need to run a Zeta. And you can destroy highest cost. As per usual, this card cannot be discarded by the opponent. And then after this effect, resolve summon it. And on summon or on attack ulti trigger, draw 2. if you've done so, if your hand is, you discard until you left 5 or less, until you left 5 cards in hand. So basically if you're at 3, you proc this, you go to 5, you don't have to discard, which is good. Because for the first time blue doesn't need to discard. Which is really nice. What I like is also that you can technically play this and Zeta as a tech. You can technically use her as a tech as well. Basically all the ultimates that say you only need a Zeta means you can technically run a Zeta deck with spirits, because only when you summon Zeta you cannot have any spirits. But after you summon him, it doesn't matter anymore. You can just run all the spirits you like. And yeah, even like a lot of the bigger ultimates, their condition is not the no spirit cards on. Like if you notice, all the bigger stuff doesn't have that weird condition. It's only all the smaller support cards. And see all the Evans. The Evans only mention they need Zeta. Okay? Mention only Zeta. This one needs the 0/0. This one also needs the 0/0. This one only looks at Zeta. So only looks at Zeta, which is good, honestly. And then this one needs the 0/0. So basically, you can run a deck that doesn't run all the small shit, and you just run all the big stuff for Zeta, and then you just play all your spirit attacks like the madman you are. I think that's something funny as well that you can do. This guy looks like Arurumon, and he looks insane. His double ulti trigger lets him restand and be fixed at 2 symbols coming, which is okay. It's so because it's 7 cost. There are some times where you'll be guarded, but most of the time he should hit. So it's quite a good aggressive piece for the deck. Draw source, removal, stall, and removal, then call boost. And this, if I'm not mistaken, also, yeah, gives you the cannot and attack step buff, which is very nice, and gives you +2 core at the start of your attack step too, which is insane. And considering how much you're milling from your opponent's deck using ultimate trigger that goes past the anti-mill, you're gonna be putting yourself quite ahead of the others. This purple Nexus from Camus. So you wouldn't want to play this in the Camus deck because the Camus deck really needs more hand. Also I heard. But I think I would run this in my own personal list, because during your opponent's turn when they increase core, you also increase core to this Nexus. So this puts you in a position where you're technically ahead of your opponent, because when they call boost, you call boost as well. And it's for each core increase, by the way. So if they use the effect that, oh, I +2 core, like, okay, I'm gonna add 2 as well. So that pays back for some cost or whatever thing you wanted to do during that turn. So if I were to be playing a deck that runs a purple Nexus, I would consider putting this in, because the second effect is generic enough to warrant it in a deck outside of its own being a Camus. So that's very nice. Status Nexuses. When ulti trigger hit, gain 1/4 to reserve. Very nice. Main stack gain a green symbol. The ultimate trigger, send the trash. The card send the trash with ultimate trigger. If he has Korin, the card gets -2. So basically it makes your Rugo 8. It makes the other events smaller basically. It's 7s. All these become 7 and 6s. So that helps in hitting. So that's also very strong. This is Camus's defensive magic, which is okay. Gataro gets a new spell that lets you spawn like bigger high speed cards from hand by paying 1. If you somehow have managed to get 6 -5 and you don't have enough core in your reserve to summon anything, you can technically do this, and boom, get your body out. And during either player's attack step, at the end of the battle, the card goes back to hand. So I guess the ideal target is a +5, because you can block, spawn another body, then get it back to hand. So it's not bad, not bad. This one is quite interesting. This card in Trash, if you have a Reeve, you can return this card to hand if you mill cards from the opponent's deck. And it's the draw 2 discard 1 magic. the Swallowtail. So I think that it's quite nice to give Reef some form of draw support. For Palm, I think this Emerald one was the nicest one, I believe. Yeah, if you have a Palm, you draw 2 from bottom deck and then you put this card on field. So you can, if you can somehow use this effect to just draw 2, put this card on field, and then after that you use the vision effect, oh, that's so good. And I would also like to mention that it's a burst card as well, so it has 3 modes of use. So this is very, very nice for Palm. And the art also looks good, so don't mind me. So yeah, that's the entirety of BS65 as a whole. I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about the cards that I'm excited about, and I hope you guys are excited about this set too, because this is gonna be quite the changer to the meta, considering that Superstars managed to get back in, thanks to Javad being very strong. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you can see more of these videos. I would be doing deck profiles for some of the lists that I did talk about in this video, hopefully very soon, because I'm gonna be hit with a lot of work. But I hope to see you again in the next one. じゃあねー。